and a drug addict, but I'll stick to the alcohol issue for all intensive purposes, I guess. Um, so I apologize for my cruddy lighting. I was with some friends, my nephews. I tried making it home on time and I failed because I hit every light. So I'm pulled over in a parking lot and I'm just catching the light from here. And funnily enough, as I'm sure some of you wouldn't be surprised, I have a BAID device in my car. So I can't really keep the car running. Otherwise, I'll be blowing into it every 5 minutes, and that's really obnoxious. So I'm trying to get some light from this thing here. So I hope that's okay. Um, so yeah, I'll just share a little bit about my experience, strength, and hope. Um, so I'll kind of blow through it really quick, just because there's a lot, and it's a really crazy story, as we all have. But there is a lot of hope in it. So I just hope that that will come across. My name is Christopher. I'm an alcoholic. I'm 33 years old, from Chicago, Illinois. Grew up in a very Catholic family, and there was a lot of Catholicism going around. And I struggled just with that, just in general, because I always thought that this idea of God, exactly that God was up there kind of with a rifle, and he's waiting for me to mess up. So I struggled with that. From a young age, I struggled with my sexuality. I realized at a young age I was wanting to kiss boys and not kiss girls, and I was like, well, that's not normal, and it wasn't normal to my family either. So I kept that a secret and kept it, you know, shoved down, very quietly. On top of that, I grew up in a household that was very dysfunctional. It was very chaotic. My parents were at each other's throats 24/7. So it just felt like a very unsafe environment, I feel like, to grow up in. From a young age 3 or whatever, my mom had me in the acting business. So I was like this little child model and running around doing photo shoots and commercials and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it. I was pulled out of school a lot, got teased a lot for that, and got teased because of the whole, even it's not like I was out or anything, but a lot of people would, call me gay because I wasn't like the most beefy jock in the school. So I was, I was the gay kid. That's what they would call me. And, I think, well, anyways, so I went through school and that was tough. So I've had my first drink and drug when I was 13 years old. My mom had she had some Xanax, and it was from my aunt. And I saw her taking it, and she seemed real relaxed. And she's like, "Oh, Aunt Janet gave me some pills to relax." I thought, "Oh, that sounds like something I could use." So at 13 years old, I ravaged through the bathroom, and I found this little bottle, and I took out these 3 little peach, pills, and I took them. And after that moment, I knew that I had found an answer to all of my problems, because I got the Oreos and I sat in front of my TV, and all of the gay issues, all of the traumatic household issues, all of the insanity that was kind of going on in my brain, being dyslexic, having all these learning disabilities, being in the remedial classes, and all of that just kind of mellowed right out. On top, at the same time, I found alcohol right around age 13, and that alcohol really did it for me. I thought, well, now that I'm drinking, it opened up this world of, okay, I can be gay, I could be myself, I'm confident. I don't care about anything anymore, because when I drank, all of my kind of morals and whatever, everything just kind of disappeared. Life was just, smooth, it was breezy. But I was drinking alcoholically from when I was a little kid. I mean, when I was 13, I had blacked out right away. The first time I drank, I blacked out. Anyway, I continued doing that, and I was kind of managing. It was still kind of the answer to all my problems at this point. It didn't become the enemy yet. And then, my mom and I tried to do this whole California acting thing. So we went out to California, and we got an agent, a manager, and spent 6 months out of the year there. And I did this for 3 years. And I think this was from about age, 16, 17 to 18. We'd spend half the year in California. Meanwhile, throughout 13, all the way during that time out in California, I was stealing pills. I was drinking. And the problem was when I would drink, I would become very, I would self-mutilate. I would cut myself. I'd cut myself because all these emotions would come up, and, the dramatics really came out when I drank. So either I was really good. It was definitely the story of the Jekyll and Hyde. I was either really this fun drunk, or I was just really crazy, scary person. I was introduced to AA when I was really young. I was probably 14 years old when I was introduced to it, but I didn't go to meeting till I was 15. Went to a meeting when I was 15 years old because I was in an outpatient program, because I was, stealing pills and drinking all the alcohol. So that was, what my family said I should go do, and the doctor said I should go do. When I went into my meeting, the first meeting I went to, there were all these. It was an old folks meeting. I was the youngest one there. I was definitely the youngest one there. But I could relate to all of these people that were 20, 30, and 40 years older than me. I could relate to all of them, everything they were saying. So I knew I belonged there, but I really, I think I have my entire career of recovery and or not recovery have struggled with this terminal uniqueness. I'm terminally unique. I'm so unique. I don't need this. I can do it on my own. I'm going to figure it out. And I was determined because, drugs and alcohol, I really felt were an answer for me. And they were just such a reprieve from my messy brain that I just couldn't handle. It was just all too much. So at age 18, after this whole California thing, I ended up getting a gig. I booked this gig in a boy band. And I ended up spending 7 years in this band, traveling all over Europe and Asia and the UK. And I figured, okay, well, once I would get into this band and I'd start traveling and, we were really popular. Everybody knew who we were there. So I thought, well, now that I'm like a celebrity and now that I have every Louis Vuitton bag that I want, and now that we've got fans, of course I'm going to be happy and fulfilled, because money, success, and fame, I was sure that would alleviate the pains of life. And it really just, it made it so much bigger and so much more loud just behind the scenes, So I was, we'd be touring, we'd be on stage one night, then I would go home and I would drink a whole bunch of alcohol. Then I'd start cutting myself, and then I would cry, and then I would have to go to the hospital, secretly get stitched up, and then be at a show 2 days later. And it was just, it was horrible. And so we were only allowed to go home when we were touring, we were only allowed to go home for a week during the year. So we'd go home for Christmas for a week. But every time I went back home, I'd end up in rehab because I would overdose or I would end up in the ICU. And so I'd end up staying at home an extra month. And people would always keep saying, you need to go to AA. AA is the answer. And I wasn't convinced of it, but I did go. I went, and I pushed through it. And I knew that was the answer. So anyways, fast forward, after the 7 years of the band, I quit because I had ended up at home for Christmas again, ended up taking way too many drugs and alcohol, and I ended up in the ICU again. And they called and said, okay, you need to get back here, whatever, you've got a contract. And I said, I quit. And I that was it. I said, I can't go back, because if I go back, I surely will die in some hotel room. That's just what's going to happen. And it was a miracle that up until that point, I hadn't been wiped out, but for some reason I was still alive. And I said, you know what, I kind of want to live the rest of my life. I'm going to give this whole sobriety thing a shot. So I went through a program at here in Chicago. It's called Behavioral Health Services. It was just kind of a 30-day inpatient and then a little bit of aftercare. But from that point, I decided, you know what, maybe this AA thing works. I saw people around me. It was working. I saw people that were happy going to AA. Young people were going to AA, which is something I didn't know. And I started making friends, and I gave it a shot. I got a sponsor. But at that point, it was, I still wasn't doing everything that, they would say that you need to do in AA to stay sober, work the steps, work with a sponsor, pick up the phone, service work, all of these different things. I was willing to do some of them, but I definitely, again, had this terminal uniqueness where I was like, I don't really need to do all these things that all these, they should probably have to do it, but I surely don't. I definitely, I just don't need to. But with that being said, I did stay sober for 18 months, working the program, but very, kind of half-heartedly. But I did stay sober for 18 months. And then at 18 months, I was going to give a lead. And that night, I had wandered up to my parents' bedroom and came across some pills. And I wasn't on top of my program at that time. Wasn't talking to my sponsor like I should have been. And I saw these pills and I said, well, F it. And that was it. And I took some, blacked out immediately, but apparently went and did this whole speech of my 18-month sobriety and how great I was doing, and no one knew. And I had people in my car that I was driving to the meeting and driving home, and I don't remember that entire night. My life was completely unmanageable at that point. And so later on, after that, at some point, I'm sure I got caught. I don't even remember how, but I got in trouble, came out again, ended up in rehab again. And for the next several years after that, I ended up going to a few more rehabs, and I started kind of heavily relying on the fact that, okay, I could get really messed up if I happened to get messed up, if I let it go and not work the program. I could just go to a nice rehab and spend 30 days in some luxurious rehab and then start all over again. And that was the routine for a couple years after that. Um, then I said, okay, well, what am I going to do with my life? I have to kind of get it together. So I started working the program again. Um, I thought to myself, I had been in so many hospitals and so many rehabs. The people that really did give me some hope were these nurses. Nurses would come and talk to me, give me just so much hope and say, you can do this, blah, blah, blah. I thought maybe I could be a nurse. Maybe there's a possibility. So I prayed about it. I went to the school and I took this entrance exam. And mind you, I was like the worst student. I barely went to school. I was in remedial classes, dyslexia, ADD, all these different problems. But I took the exam and I passed it and I did well. I got into the program. And when I got there, I thought, okay, I really don't want to lose this. I should probably really get involved, back with AA. I should really get back in touch with my sponsor, which I did. School came along. I started going through nursing school, and I kind of got so entrenched in school and it was so overwhelming that I was like, you know what? I'm so focused on school. I don't really need AA right now. I just don't. I'm not going to mess up. I'm in nursing school. What's going to happen? Sure enough, last Christmas break, that's exactly what happened. I hadn't been going to meetings. I wasn't working my program, and it was another. I think I can handle it. I think I could handle one more quietly. No one will know. Sure enough, that night or 2 nights later, I got a DUI. I got pulled over. I got a DUI. I got a felony drug charge. I got a DUI, and spent the night in jail. Got out of jail. And at that moment, I thought, that was really for me. That was God kind of coming down and slapping me in the face and saying, listen, I picture God, as this, my idea of God now has changed much since I was a kid, but my idea of God is this kind of loving father, so to speak. And what a dad has to do, a dad has to do. And so I feel like he kind of stepped in and said, look, these are your consequences. So I had to join this outpatient or this a program for people in the medical field. That you have to test, go drop once a month. And, I've got these charges hanging over me. And I feel like God put that in place because that was one of the consequences that was yet to come. And it came. It was just one of those yets that came. And I have to say, I'm so grateful that it did come because it was necessary, I guess. And it's just part of my story. And also a part of my story is, you guys asked about, who's in their first 90 days. I am still in my first 90 days. I just didn't put it in there because I don't know exactly how many days it's been, but it's been, I'll rewind really quick. How am I on time? Am I okay? Timing up. Wrapping up? Okay, we're good. So I went, I had this DUI. I had to leave school for a little bit. And in that time, I was really contemplating like my life. And I always knew 100% AA was the answer. These people knew what they were talking about. They had success. I've seen lives changed, and all my close friends, a lot of them stayed sober and got married and had families and had these beautiful jobs and bought these homes and lived these really decent lives. Not that problems were gone, but they were living manageable lives that were much better than they were. And I thought, man, I would really just love that. For me, it was just a huge thing of surrender. And I thought to myself after I got the DUI, okay, I have to surrender myself to the program. And each time that I relapsed, looking back, every time that I relapsed and messed up, I became a little more willing. I became a little more willing to do a little more work. Okay, fine, I'll get a sponsor. Okay, fine, I'll really call him every day. Okay, fine, I'll do a real 4-step instead of a half-ass 4-step. Okay, now I'll do 90-90. So each time I became a little more willing, and I'm grateful for that. That's just what it took for me to get where I am now. So I got back into school after being gone for 2 months. I got back into school and I finished. I graduated. It was an absolute miracle, I think, that I graduated. And then after I graduated, we had COVID going on. We had all these different things going on, and I wasn't going to meetings as much. And I was like, oh, Zoom meetings, well, who needs them? Like they're so like not personal, etc. So I wasn't on the program like I should have been. Well, I was on the program. I wasn't in the program. And long story short, I was in this place where, I had this DUI. I was just struggling again in my own mind. And I went and it blows my mind. So let this, I guess, be a lesson. You know, I'm a good example of basically what not to do in some instances. Um, and I went to 7-Eleven down here and I got 3 beers and I thought I can get away with this. And I did. I got away with it. I drank them, but I didn't get away with it with myself, and it ate me up inside. And after that, I thought, okay, this is going to lead me right back to where it's always led me. And that's going to be, you know, relapse. That's going to be back to pills. It's going to be in the hospital. I'm going to be dead soon or kill someone. So I said, okay, now I need to do something. Um, and so I got back to actually I found a few meetings that were open. I fessed up, which was the hardest thing to do because I'm a proud person. And I feel that when I go into a meeting and tell people that, it's like, oh God, you drank, gross. This is AA, get over it, you know, come on now. But that's not how people ever are in AA. So I fessed up. I got a new sponsor, and I found him because he was real serious, and he was kind of one of these, I guess you could say, big book thumper. But I was down with that. I'm like, I need that. I need somebody who's going to tell me what to do. And I've been working with him ever since then. So my last drink was August 24th. So it hasn't been all that long, but I've never felt better in my life because I've been going to meetings almost every night since then. I do talk to my sponsor now every day because I'm desperate to stay sober. I have this gift of desperation. I don't want to lose it. And I know for a fact that AA is the only solution. I've tried everything. I tried churches. I tried all these different things. So I guess long story short is I'm just so grateful to be alive still. The fact that I've taken so many risks and so many chances. AA has always been there to welcome me back with open arms. You know, like the saying, you know, when anyone anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA to always be there, and for that I'm grateful. And AA's hand has always been out for me, and I'm just so grateful. And AA saved my life. I believe it's a total it's a gift from God. And I know that I can live a happy, joyous, and free life, you know, when I'm in the program. And lastly, I look at my life and I see those like 10 years of where I was this quote celebrity or whatever. And a lot of people are like, you know, oh, that's so neat. That's so cool. And how amazing. Well, if I could just, I would trade in those 10 years of all that time if I could have just stayed sober, or if I could just stay sober. Um, Going from meeting to meeting and working the program and working with my sponsor and being free in that sense is 10 times better than performing in front of 30,000 or 100,000 people. It's better than, you know, it's better than anything I've ever had. Just being sober and being free and not having to live in that muck of a brain. And it's great. So I really appreciate you guys hearing my ramble of whatever I've said. I hope it made some sense. Um, and yeah, and that's all. So I'm a Christopher. I'm an alcoholic. I'm so grateful to be an alcoholic. I wouldn't trade it for a thing. It's made me who I am today. And I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love you all over the world. You guys are great. I'll keep you in my prayers, and thank you.